Every morning in Santa Monica greets you with the intoxicating scent of blooming jacaranda. On this May morning, a gentle breeze played with the purple petals, swirling them in a delicate dance. In a quiet corner of Bel Air, in an elegant Spanish colonial revival mansion, Olivia Harrison bustled in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. With grace, she poured organic granola into a bowl, generously garnishing it with juicy blueberries. Her 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, as always, settled at the kitchen island, intently engrossed in her homework. Olivia, wrapped in a soft cashmere cardigan, watched her daughter with tenderness as she turned on the coffee maker. "Sophia, how was yesterday's math test?" she asked, trying to hide the anxiety in her voice. Sophia's eyes sparkled. "I got an A, Mom. The teacher praised me in front of the whole class." Olivia gently ran her hand through her daughter's hair. 3 long years had passed since she lost her husband. 3 years since their last visit to the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd. Combining running a real estate investment company with raising a child proved challenging, but Sophia's radiant smile was her inexhaustible source of strength, a ray of light in her life. Sunday services were sacred to them, and charity was a way of life. In the eyes of others, Olivia was the perfect mother. After the morning chores and saying goodbye to Sophia, she promptly prepared the monthly transfer to her parents. Since her father, William Harrison's, business collapsed, Olivia had taken on the role of their financial support, becoming the guarantor for the mortgage. This ranch-style house, built in the distant 70s, had been their fortress for 3 decades, and Olivia was doing everything she could to prevent them from losing it. She also paid for Abigail Harrison, her sister's daughter, to attend the prestigious Brentwood School. Madison, her sister's husband, a simple construction worker, could not cover such expenses. And despite this, Madison continued to make plans and voice new demands regarding their child's future. From the outside, they seemed like an exemplary family. Sunday lunches were filled with laughter and lively conversations around a generous table, laden with Mom's culinary masterpieces. But lately, Olivia was increasingly haunted by a sense of anxiety and discomfort. Madison's Facebook was a kaleidoscope of haute couture bags and photos from exotic countries. A life on display, gloss, and glitter that didn't fit with her humble part-time job at a nail salon. Olivia, the older sister, helped, as did her parents, but in Madison's eyes, there was always dissatisfaction, as if she was being deprived of something vital. Eleanor Harrison, the girl's mother, adored her youngest. Madison reveled in expensive outfits, and social lunches with her neighbors' friends were commonplace for her. Eleanor always took Madison's side, repeating like a broken record, "I feel so sorry for her." And this pity served as justification for any, even the most absurd, demands for Abigail's extracurricular activities and tutors, the costs of which ultimately fell on Olivia's shoulders. William Harrison, their father, was obsessed with the appearance of prosperity. Even after the devastating bankruptcy of his company, he clung to the trappings of former luxury like a drowning man clutching at a straw. "Give up the fancy car. Never. Leave the golf club. Out of the question." At homeowners' meetings, he still spoke loudly, trying to convince everyone, and, above all, himself, of his former influence. His gestures showed bravado, his voice echoed with past power, but his eyes held hidden pain and fear. Gratitude to Olivia for her family's financial support had turned into a dreary routine. It seemed that a new storm was brewing, ready to fall on the already fragile family ties. "Olivia, dear, why don't we all go on a family picnic in Griffith Park this weekend, just before Mother's Day?" her mother suddenly suggested. Olivia felt a pang of foreboding at the phrase, strengthen family ties. But seeing the genuine joy in Sophia's eyes, she couldn't refuse. Wow, can we buy a new picnic basket? I saw such a lovely one at Nordstrom. Olivia caught herself sharing her daughter's innocent delight. Watching Sophia excitedly choose a new basket and try on her favorite outfits, she couldn't help but smile. The following Saturday, William Harrison's gleaming BMW smoothly pulled into the Griffith Park parking lot. Eleanor Harrison, sitting in the passenger seat, was dressed in a light blue dress, and her face was adorned with more makeup than usual. In the back seat, Abigail seemed completely oblivious to what was happening, completely absorbed in her new iPad. Sophia, honey, hurry up, get in. Eleanor's voice had a subtle hint of impatience. Sophia shyly slipped into the back seat, carefully clutching her new hat like a fragile treasure. Her favorite pink sundress, chosen with her mother, seemed to shine in the sunlight. Olivia! Wow, she exclaimed, flashing a dazzling smile at her grandmother in the front seat. Grandma, look at this picnic basket. Mom bought it just for me. Eleanor glanced at her granddaughter in the rearview mirror, forcing a smile. Oh, how lovely! Madison followed them in her enormous SUV. She would never part with it, even though the mortgage on her house in the prestigious Santa Monica neighborhood was draining her dry. Image was everything to her. The early summer sun gently warmed the streets of Santa Monica. The weather was perfect for a picnic, but beneath this cloudless sky, a sinister plan was brewing. As soon as they arrived at the park, Abigail immediately distanced herself from Sophia. Away from the eyes of adults, she stealthily cast malevolent glances at her cousin. Sophia had long grown accustomed to this and silently endured it. Let's take a commemorative photo, Eleanor proclaimed, raising her smartphone with an unnaturally cheerful voice. Abigail, stand next to Sophia. I want us to get a good picture. Displeasure flickered across Abigail's face for just a moment, instantly replaced by a radiant smile for the camera. She was a master of transforming into the image of a flawless young lady. But her fingers, like claws, dug into Sophia's waist, causing sharp pain. Overcoming it, Sophia forced a smile. Sandwiches were displayed on the makeshift table, and the fruit salad in mason jars had already been distributed. The adults engaged in casual conversation, but a strange tension was palpable in the air, especially between Madison and Eleanor. Their glances at each other hinted at some dark undercurrent. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Sophia headed to the restroom. Be careful! Eleanor's voice, which reached her from behind, sounded unnatural, as if laced with insincerity. When Sophia returned, she was faced with an empty lawn where their picnic had just been. Everything was gone. The belongings, the new picnic basket, everything had vanished into thin air. It was as if the idyllic scene that had unfolded here moments ago was just a ghostly illusion. Grandma? Grandpa? Only a ringing silence answered. Abigail? Not a sound around. Overcome with panic, Sophia desperately began to scan the surroundings. With trembling fingers, she borrowed a phone from a passing stranger and dialed her mother's number. The phone call crashed upon Olivia like a thunderbolt. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest. Mom, help! They abandoned me and took my cousin. Her daughter's voice broke, choking with sobs. Tears streamed down her cheeks. What? Where are you now? Unconcealed alarm, verging on panic, was in Olivia's voice. Without wasting a second, Olivia dialed her parents' number. Mom, where's Sophia? Her tone was sharp, brooking no argument. After a moment of agonizing silence, Eleanor replied in an unnaturally cheerful voice. "Oh, sorry, dear. We completely forgot about her." In the background, Madison's muffled laughter could be heard. "She must be in shock." At that moment, something snapped in Olivia's heart. This wasn't just forgetfulness, not an accidental oversight. It was a cold-blooded, premeditated act of cruelty. Sophia, huddled on a park bench, wrapped her arms around her knees. She was trembling. The summer sun was still shining brightly, flooding the park with light. But for her, the world had plunged into utter darkness. A kind family who had taken her in and lent her a phone watched anxiously from a distance. The woman, full of compassion, said quietly, "Everything will be all right. Your mom will be here soon." Sophia only nodded weakly in response, unable to utter a word. As Olivia's car pulled into the Griffith Park parking lot, the sun had not yet begun to set. Sophia's hands were still shaking betrayingly, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "Sophia!" Olivia breathed, and in that instant the girl shot out of the car, throwing herself into her mother's arms. Olivia held her daughter tightly, feeling the slight tremors that still shook her small body. The kind family approached them with concern. "The poor thing! She's been shaking the whole time," the woman said sympathetically. "Thank you. Thank you so much," Olivia's voice broke with emotion. In the park management office, they reviewed the security camera footage. The images were chillingly clear. Olivia's parents and Madison's family hastily gathering their belongings, jumping into their cars, and laughing. It was all a setup. "This is blatant child abuse," the park ranger stated with an impassive face. "Should we contact the police?" Olivia paused for a moment, her gaze full of pain and determination. Then she shook her head. "No, I'll handle this myself. Within the family." Back home, Sophia grabbed her iPad, her fingers trembling with emotion. "Mom, look!" she exclaimed, handing the tablet to Olivia. "It recorded the conversation right before they abandoned me." And then, voices filled with gloating came from the speakers. "Let's hurry up and leave while she's in the restroom." "Yeah, let's all leave together, leaving her behind." "We're leaving her behind. How fun." Laughter and jubilation could be heard in the voice, making the blood run cold. "That's Madison," a voice thundered. A week later, like crows flocking to a sorrowful feast, relatives filled Olivia's mansion in Bel Air. 3 o'clock on a Sunday, the time Olivia usually shone at church charity events, but today a thick, suffocating air of grief and tension hung in the reception room. William Harrison, Eleanor Harrison, the entire Madison family, aunts and uncles, cousins, all eyes, as if hypnotized, were fixed on the iPad placed in the center of the table, like an ominous altar. "Please watch these footage and listen to the audio." Olivia's voice, despite the storm raging inside, remained icy calm. Recordings from security cameras flickered on the screen, then Sophia's voice was heard on the audio, followed by horrifying footage showing her daughter's condition after that terrible incident. The evidence was irrefutable, like a verdict handed down by fate itself. "I don't want to hear any excuses," Olivia's voice, quiet but piercing, echoed off the walls. She fixed her gaze, full of pain and disappointment, on the parents and Madison. "I can't believe you're making such a tragedy out of this," Eleanor began haughtily, as if trying to brush aside the looming threat. "It was just a joke. Kids often—" "A joke?" Olivia's voice was so cold that it seemed to instantly chill the room. "Leaving an 8-year-old child in an unfamiliar place, you call that a joke?" Fury flashed in her eyes, ready to incinerate the falsehood of those words. "Olivia, please, let's calm down." William Harrison's voice cut in with steely notes. "We're family, after all. If we just talk—" In response, Olivia burst into bitter, angry laughter. How dare you even utter those words after you put my daughter in mortal danger? But that girl, Madison trembled all over, her voice breaking. She's always been perfect, always the best grades. Everyone adores her. And look at Abigail at the same school, and she's constantly being compared. So, you abandoned an 8-year-old child because my daughter is too good? Genuine astonishment and anger rang in Olivia's voice. Enough! Eleanor tried to smooth things over, forcing a saccharine smile onto her face. It's also a kind of manifestation of family love. Love? Olivia's single word carried an Arctic chill. Then I'll show you what my love is. With a sharp movement, she snatched her smartphone from her pocket and opened Facebook. I'm going to post the details of this incident in all the groups, in the church community, in the parent-teacher association, and in our housing cooperative. Let everyone know what loving relatives you are. Stop! Eleanor shrieked as if struck. Our reputation, oh, it's so important. Oh, is that how it is? Reputation is important? Then why did you even allow a situation in which an 8-year-old child was abandoned? Olivia was not going to back down. William Harrison rose from his chair, his face contorted in a false grimace of repentance. Olivia, we sincerely apologize. We're sorry. Too late. Olivia pressed her lips into a thin line. Her finger touched the post button. This is just the beginning, she hissed. The aunt and uncle gasped for air as if they were deprived of oxygen. The cousins turned away, hiding eyes full of fear. They all felt the approach of the devastating hurricane that Olivia had just unleashed. Get out! Olivia's voice was cold as ice, devoid of any emotion. From this day on, I sever all ties that bind me to you. Eleanor burst into tears, her face contorted in pain. You want to destroy us. You dug this pit yourselves, Olivia retorted. Her words sounded like a sentence with no appeal. As the parents and Madison left the room, like hunted animals, the remaining relatives surrounded Olivia. We're with you, whispered a cousin, his eyes full of sympathy. We'll help in any way we can. At that moment, the church bells rang, spreading the news of what had happened throughout the city. Social media exploded like a powder keg. Justice and betrayal, love and hate, truth and lies, all mixed in a mad whirlwind. In the upscale business district of Santa Monica, on the 15th floor of a glittering skyscraper, home to the cream of the business world, a tension hung in the conference room of a prestigious law firm that could be cut with a knife. Opposite Olivia, as if in the dock, sat her father, William Harrison, her mother, Eleanor Harrison, and Madison. Madison's husband, to add insult to injury, couldn't get away from work, leaving her without support. We have gathered here for an important announcement, began Olivia's lawyer, his voice echoing in the room. First, regarding the mortgage guarantee revocation for Mr. William Harrison. He distributed the documents, and the rustling of paper cut through the silence. As of today, Miss Olivia Harrison is no longer the guarantor for your mortgage. Wait! Eleanor barely suppressed her sobs. What about us? The lawyer, as if not hearing her pleas, continued impassively. Concerning the funding for Abigail Harrison's education at Brentwood School, it will cease at the end of the current semester. How can you be so inhumane? Madison burst out, her voice filled with despair. You're trying to ruin Abigail's life. Olivia, unperturbed, retrieved the last document. Furthermore, the monthly living allowance will cease as of today. A heavy silence filled the conference room. William Harrison, defeated, whispered, Why are you doing this so cruelly? A glint of ice flickered in Olivia's eyes. You went too far. Outside the window, the jacaranda dropped its purple blossoms, seemingly mourning the demise of the family. "Will you tell me the truth?" Olivia's voice was quiet, but it carried a steely resolve. "What made you do this?" Madison suddenly burst into hysterical tears. It, it was my idea. The truth, once revealed, was far dirtier than imagined. Madison had always envied her sister's success, and that envy had poisoned everything around them. Olivia, the queen of real estate investments, reveled in the ostentatious luxury of her mansion, playing the role of the perfect mother. But the facade was cracking. A part-time job, a husband with a meager income, and an unaffordable mortgage in an upscale complex were turning her life into a hellish race. The gap between what she wanted and what she had grew wider every day. But what poisoned Olivia the most was Sophia, that perfect girl, the eternal straight-A student. 10, even 20 points higher than Abigail. Madison's voice trembled with rage. The teachers simply adored her. The parental indulgence of Sophia was unbearable. Eleanor, blinded by love for her younger daughter, Madison, accepted any, even the most absurd demands. William Harrison, silenced by financial dependence, could only nod helplessly, agreeing to everything. "Is this the price for my silence?" Olivia's question hung in the air, unanswered. As soon as Madison left the conference room, her phone rang. A notification from Brentwood School flashed on the screen. Expulsion for non-payment. At the same moment, a message arrived from the credit company, a warning about a late payment. The world she had so carefully built was collapsing in an instant. That evening brought a real storm to William and Eleanor Harrison's house as well. "Loan payment," William murmured, as if nailed to the floor by the foreclosure notice from the bank. His voice was filled with despair. "What are we going to do?" Eleanor, with a feverish gleam in her eyes, frantically typed messages on her phone. "I'll ask my friends." But her friends, seeing her pleas for help on social media, slammed their virtual doors in her face one by one, blocking her account. Days passed, and the clouds gathered over their heads. Arguments with Madison's husband became a never-ending nightmare. She couldn't find the words to justify herself, and guilt gnawed at her from the inside. "Because of your selfishness, Abigail had to transfer to another school," her husband thundered. "She can't adjust. She's completely withdrawn. She's started skipping classes." The residents of their previously friendly upscale complex now demonstratively turned away from William and Eleanor. They were no longer invited to HOA meetings, and they were met with icy stares at church. One day, at the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd, Eleanor was seen running out in tears after being shamefully expelled from the charity committee. A month later, a real disaster struck. Madison's husband, unable to bear it any longer, filed for divorce. "I can't live with a mother who endangers her children anymore," he said as a parting shot. William and Eleanor, unable to pay the mortgage, found themselves on the verge of eviction from their luxurious home, stripped of everything that once seemed unshakable. "I never thought it would turn out this way," Olivia whispered, looking at the crimson sunset from her office window. She took a small sip of wine, and Sophia, nestling up to her, asked, "Mom, why can't you forgive Grandma and everyone else?" Olivia hugged her daughter tighter, her voice filled with sadness. "I'm so sorry, sweetie, but it had to be done. This punishment was meant to protect you and show them what true love is." The setting sun, like an artist, highlighted the purple jacaranda blossoms with fiery color. In this light, the silhouettes of the mother and daughter, embracing so tightly, seemed as one. This was not the end, but the dawn of a new life. Their journey to understanding the true meaning of family was just beginning. A year later, on a Sunday morning, Olivia and Sophia stood in the Episcopal Church of the Good Shepherd, where sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows. They had just finished their weekly therapy session and were on their way to service. "Dr. Johnson, thank you for another wonderful session," Olivia said to the psychologist with a smile. "I'm so happy to see Sophia's smile returning." And indeed, Sophia's face shone brighter than ever before. The trauma was receding, she had made new friends, and her academic performance had become even more noticeable. The trials they had endured had only strengthened the invisible bond between mother and daughter. "Mom, look!" Sophia, with shining eyes, pointed to the ground where a new jacaranda sprout was timidly pushing through. "Soon, these lilac bells will be blazing again." Olivia, hugging her daughter, gently ran her hand through her hair. "That's right, sweetie. And a new chapter is beginning for us." Meanwhile, far from their peaceful corner, a drama worthy of Shakespeare was unfolding. William Harrison and his wife, Eleanor, were forced to pack their bags, leaving their luxurious mansion in Bel Air, a home that had witnessed 35 years of their lives. Saying goodbye to this symbol of success was particularly bitter, as their Rolls-Royce, like wounded pride, left the exclusive complex. Not a single soul from their former friends came to cast a farewell glance. Now their refuge was a modest apartment somewhere in the urban bustle. Savings were melting like snow under the spring sun, and the looming retirement frightened them with its uncertainty. All that ostentatious luxury, the photos on social media, the membership in prestigious clubs, all of it had turned to dust. But the most painful blow was their complete ostracism from their usual circle. "We cannot allow people like you to remain on the charity committee," they were told in icy tones at the church parish. "We ask that you refrain from attending HOA meetings," came a dry notification from former acquaintances, like a slap in the face. Perhaps the hardest hit was Madison. Her divorce was finalized, and her ex-husband, wasting no time, was already leading another woman down the aisle. With limited parental rights, Olivia could only see her Abigail once a month. After the accustomed comfort, life in public housing felt like a punch to the gut. Her meager salary barely covered living expenses, and her parents' support was no longer available. Abigail continued to skip school but was attending therapy. The luxurious brands were a thing of the past. Now their wardrobe was replenished in secondhand stores. Social media accounts were deleted. At a family meeting, an uncle delivered a verdict that chilled them to the bone. "You are no longer welcome at any family holiday. Not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, not birthdays. You are no longer family to us." And these words were not empty. They were completely erased from the family's life. Their faces were even cut out of family photos. But it was in these severe trials that Olivia and Sophia discovered something important. True family is not just blood ties, is it? They found warmth and support in a new church community where they were welcomed with open arms. And they understood that love cannot be bought or earned with money. Using money for control is not love at all. Olivia was lost in memories of a time when financial influence was her tool in a manipulative power game. Once, Sophia's teacher's words pierced her heart. "Your mother is an incredibly brave woman. She risked everything to protect her child." Olivia could only nod, a lump rising in her throat. "Sometimes, Sophia," she began, looking into her daughter's eyes, "to protect those you care about, you have to break even the closest blood ties. But in return," she hesitated, searching for the right words, "in return, you connect with those who truly matter. This connection becomes stronger than steel." In the twilight haze, the panorama of Santa Monica stretched out before them from the heights of Bel Air. The lilac blossoms of the jacarandas, like precious stones, shimmered in the rays of the setting sun. Mom! Sophia looked up at the sky, where the first stars were already timidly appearing. We will always be together, won't we? Olivia smiled, her eyes reflecting boundless warmth. Always, my girl, there is nothing more important. Protecting you is my greatest happiness. At that moment, the sound of church bells reached them on the wind. Their pure, powerful sound rolled over the city like a blessing, marking the beginning of a new life. This story is an anthem to the courage of a mother and daughter who rejected the shackles of blood ties for bonds forged by true love. It makes us wonder, what is true family? What is true love? And what does it really mean to protect your child? The answers, like exotic birds, circled in the azure sky above Santa Monica, carried on purple petals woven from the sunset.